Hi everyone! In this video I'm doing a file work on this full tang knife that is the same one you saw in last week's video about the hamon. And as you can see, I've already prepared the handle scales with ebony and brass. I waited till now for this file work because I wanted to start just under the blast bolster, so now I can mark the exact position. To see better all the lines that I need to lay down later, the tang needs to be very clean. So here I'm removing all deep scratches with a fine belt on my 2x72. And then I also sand it by hand with 300 grit sandpaper, holding the blade in my knife making vise. Next drawing represents all the steps needed to achieve the filework design I had in mind. This might be confusing right now, but as we proceed I'll show you again part of this image, so I hope it will all make sense later on. I used a blue marker on the tang so that the lines that I'm about to scribe will show up better. So as first we can scribe a center line. Then we divide this length by the thickness of the tang. For this knife is 4 mm. And I'm using a small combination square to make some perpendicular lines so that it's easier to see for next step. Now we need to be extremely careful to punch exactly where we marked. So to help me, I sharpened this punch to a very fine tip, and the tang is locked tight in this vise. In my drawing, the diameter of this hole was 1/3 the thickness of the tang, but the closest drill bit size I had for my 4 mm thick knife was 1.5 mm, so I went for that. And I think it came out looking just fine. And we are back to more scribing. As you can see, all these lines are at 45 degrees. For each hole we need 3, one going through the center and 2 tangent to the hole. At this point I realized I should have probably used a fine hobby knife to scribe, because it's much thinner. To grind I use this rotary tool with a thin cut-off wheel, and I set the speed as low as it can go to hopefully control the tool more precisely. I make a series of cuts starting from the side going to the hole. For the left side we need to take off the top half of the groove, and for the right side the bottom half. The last step for the filework is to smooth some sharp corners, and again I'm doing it with the rotary tool, grinding with the face of the cutting wheel. I'm not taking off a lot of material here, so even if this blade is so thin, it can do it easily. Now we can attach the scale with 5-minute epoxy. I've added some black pigments so that when the epoxy cures in the fileworks, it will have a nice contrast with the steel. I also sanded all the surface that will receive glue with low grit sandpaper, and I cleaned up everything with solvent. Here you can see I'm pushing the epoxy inside the filework so that it fills all the voids and gaps. I left it to dry overnight, and now I can start to clean up the handle. I am removing material very slowly because I don't want to risk the filework with a bad grinder. So I take very light passes, and as soon as I see the pattern under the epoxy, I move to hand sand. I sanded up to 1200 grit, and I also buffed it just a bit, so you have an idea of how it would look like in a finished handle.